In 1943, this country grew about 40% of its own fresh vegetables in backyards. Not on farms, in backyards. 20 million of them. Victory gardens, they called them. And while the men were overseas, women and children and old men were out there raising food on lawns, on vacant lots, on strips of dirt behind apartment buildings. And it wasn't only vegetables. The War Food Administration went out and told American families to raise rabbits in the back lot, called it victory meat, put out the instructions themselves. So for a few years there, this country remembered something it had known for 300 years, that a family and a small piece of dirt and a few animals can feed themselves. And then, inside of 20 years, we forgot it completely. By the mid-60s, the hutch came down, the hens went, the backyard went back to grass, and a whole nation of people who had just fed themselves through a world war decided they couldn't do it anymore. Nobody outlawed it, friend. Nobody came and took your grandmother's chickens. Something better organized happened. Somebody worked out that there was more money in selling you the egg than in you owning the hen. And here's the thing that ought to bother you. The animals that did that work are all still here, still cheap, still working. Most of them are sitting in a hatchery catalog right now for less than you'd spend on a tank of gas. So today, I'm going to walk you through 11 of them. 11 animals that turn a single acre into something that feeds itself, where one animal eats what another one wastes, and almost nothing has to come in through the gate. And I'm going to give you the honest version. Real numbers, real costs, and the mistakes that wreck most people in the first year. Because half of what gets said about this online is wishful thinking, and the other half is somebody selling you something. 3 things before we start counting. Number 7 is the animal everybody wants first, and I'm going to tell you the thing the pretty homestead videos leave out. The fence costs more than the animal, a lot more. I'll give you the real number. Number 4 gives you roughly half a beef steer's worth of meat a year out of a space smaller than a parking spot. And almost nobody in America keeps them anymore. And number 2 isn't really an animal at all. It's the one nobody starts with, it costs about $30, and it's the one that makes every other animal on this list cheaper to feed. If I could only get you to do one thing off this whole video, it'd be that one. Number 1 isn't an animal either. Number 1 is what happens when all of them stand on the same acre. Now let me say the thing that runs underneath all of this. Every animal on this list kills a bill, and every bill it kills is somebody's revenue. That's the whole reason they went quiet. Not a conspiracy, just arithmetic. Let's count down from 11. Number 11, geese. And I'm starting here because this is the animal people laugh at right up until they own one. In 390 BC, the story goes, an army crept up the cliffs of Rome at night to take the city. The guard dogs slept straight through it. The geese didn't. They set up such a racket the garrison woke and threw the attackers back down the rock. 2,400 years ago, and people are still telling that story. And they're still on the job. A Scotch whiskey distillery kept geese as its guard for over 50 years. Geese have close to 360-degree vision and can see into the ultraviolet. They'll spot a hawk before you do. 2 to 4 geese handle weeding, mowing, and watch duty on an acre. Each eats 2 to 4 pounds of grass a day, and in the warm months, a pair needs no bought feed at all for 4 or 5 months. Pilgrim geese are the calm ones, and auto-sexing, males white, females gray, so you always know what you've got. Chinese geese weed better and guard louder, but they're pushier. 2 to 2.5 feet of fence holds them. Now here's where I'll be straight with you, and this is the part the homestead accounts don't post. A goose is an alarm, not a defense. She'll run off a hawk, a possum, a raccoon. She will not fight a coyote and win. If you've got coyotes, she is not your predator plan. She's your early warning. And don't put them in your vegetable garden. They eat vegetables just as cheerfully as they eat weeds. Don't overfeed grain or a fat goose quits weeding. And electric fence is useless on them. The feathers insulate. They'll walk right through it and look at you. 2 to 4 geese, a fence you already have, and something mowing and watching your place 7 days a week for free. That's the watchman. Number 10 is an animal bred to do one job nothing else can do safely. Number 10, the Babydoll Southdown sheep. And this one nearly disappeared off the face of the earth twice. After the Second World War, the breed collapsed. By the 1980s, fewer than 350 were left in the world. A man named Robert Mock spent 4 years hunting down the last purebred flocks in America, farm to farm, chasing rumors. He found enough, and in 1999, American flocks got shipped back to England to reestablish a breed that had been extinct there for 50 years. That's a breed that came back from the edge because one man went looking. Here's what makes her useful. A shorn Babydoll stands about 18 to 24 inches tall. She grazes up to about 39 inches high and no further, which means she can walk through a mature orchard or a vineyard eating grass, weeds, clover, and fallen fruit, and she physically cannot reach your fruit. Vineyards set their wire at 46 inches. She can't get to it. She's a living mower that doesn't eat the crop. 2 or 3 on an acre is right, and they pair perfectly with goats. Goats browse brush and weeds, sheep eat grass. Same pasture, different menu, no fighting over it. The wool's a bonus, 4 to 6 pounds a year, fine enough that fiber artists chase it for felting. Lambs dress out around 50 pounds, and registered lambs sell for $500 to $1,000. Upkeep runs about $325 to $850 a head a year. Hay, minerals, hoof trimming, worming, vaccines. Grass and hay is enough. Grain just makes them fat. And the honest warning, because a breeder with years on these said it plainly, they will damage young trees. They'll strip bark off a new sapling and eat the leaves off low branches. These are for an established orchard with real trunks. Put them in with 2-year-old trees and you'll lose the trees. Trim the hooves every 3 or 4 months and keep them out of standing mud. Wet ground is where foot rot starts. That's the mower. Number 9 is a pig that won't destroy your acre, and that's not a thing most pigs can say. Number 9, the Kunekune pig. Most folks hear pig and picture a bulldozer with a snout. Put a standard hog on a small acre and in a week you've got a moonscape. That's the whole reason pigs fell off the small homestead. No room to let them wreck. The Kunekune is the exception, and it's down to one physical trait, a short upturned snout that just isn't built for rooting. They graze like cattle. A farmer in Michigan who's run them for years says they only root a little in mid-April and mid-October when the ground's saturated. The rest of the year they eat grass. Another fellow running both says his pigs graze harder than his goats. That changes what a pig can be on a small place. Paddock them on a rough spot 2 or 3 weeks, let them work the surface, clean up fallen fruit and manure it, then move them on. Rotational grazing with a pig without the destruction. 1 or 2 is right for a shared acre, about 1/6 of an acre each. 4-foot welded wire holds them. They don't test fence. Sows run 100 to 175 pounds, boars 2 to 400. Piglets take about ½ a pound of grain a day, growers a pound, adults 2. On good summer pasture, that drops way down, but breeding stock still needs some. Pasture alone won't carry them. A 200-pound Kunekune gives you 120 to 150 hanging, 60 to 100 pounds in the freezer. Dark red, heavily marbled, lard-type pork. Chefs pay for it. Now the 3 ways people get this wrong. 1, and this is the big one, buy purebred. Cross a Kunekune with anything else and you lose the no rooting trait. Then you've got a rooting pig and a torn-up acre and you'll blame the breed. Buy registered. 2, don't overfeed. A fat sow crushes her own piglets. And 3, they take 12 to 18 months to finish instead of 6 or 7. You are not raising these for speed. You're raising them for meat quality and for what they do to the ground. Give them shade and a wallow in summer. A pig can't sweat and heat kills them. That's the pig that improves your land. Number 8 takes up 3 square feet and multiplies everything you grow. Number 8, honeybees. And most people put them on the list for the honey, which is the smallest part of what they do. Put hives next to a garden or an orchard and yields go up 30 to 80%. One backyard orchardist went from about 15% fruit set to 65, 70, 80% after 2 hives went in. Properly pollinated apples come in about 27% heavier. Read that again. You're not adding a crop. You're multiplying every crop you already have. 2 or 3 hives suits an acre. Each takes 2 to 3 square feet of ground and forages 2 to 5 miles out, so your acre is never the limit. They'll work your neighbor's garden too, and you still get the honey. Startup for 2 hives runs about $1,000 to $1,500 all in. And don't expect honey the first year. They need that first season to draw comb and put up stores for winter. Leave them be. Year 2 and on, a healthy hive gives you 30 to 60 pounds of surplus. Experienced keepers pull 100 or better. At $12 to $15 a pound at a market, that's real money off 3 square feet. Figure 30 minutes to an hour per hive a week in season, and 75 to 100 a year per hive in treatments and supplies. 2 rules, and neither one is optional. Always start with 2 hives. Colony losses average 20 to 25% a year, mostly varroa mites. With 2, you can pull a frame of brood from the strong one and save the weak one. 1 hive is a coin flip. 2 is a plan. And the mites will kill an untreated colony. Not might, will. You have to learn to check mite loads and treat. That's the job. Last thing. Once you've got bees, the chemical sprays are done on your place. A little neonicotinoid can empty a hive overnight, which is fine because if you're running this system right, your ducks and chickens are the pest control. That's the multiplier. Number 7 is the one I teased, the animal everybody wants and the bill nobody mentions. Number 7, Nigerian dwarf goats. And I'll say up front, this is the animal most people write to me about wanting. So let me give you both halves of it. The good half is genuinely good. These little goats stand 17 to 23 inches and weigh 40 to 75 pounds, half the size of a standard dairy goat, which means half the feed and half the fence height problem on paper. And their milk is the richest of any registered dairy breed, 6 to 10% butterfat, 2 to 3 times what you'd get out of a Saanen or an Alpine. That fat is what makes cheese. Cow milk gives you about 10 or 11% yield on a hard cheese. Nigerian dwarf gives you 15 to 18, nearly twice the cheese out of the same gallon. A good doe gives 1 to 2 quarts a day at peak. 2 does at 1.5 quarts each is 5 or 6 gallons a week, drinking milk, cheese, yogurt, and enough left over for soap. And goat milk soap isn't regulated the way cheese is, which is why so many small places sell soap and not cheese. They breed year-round, unlike most dairy goats that only cycle August to January, so you can stagger your does and have milk nearly all year. Now the half nobody puts in the video. The fence costs more than the goats, a lot more. These animals are under 2 feet tall, and a Nigerian dwarf can clear a 6-foot fence. They'll go through any gap bigger than their own skull. Cattle panels are a disaster. The openings are big enough to get a head stuck or push straight through. What actually holds them is 4 to 5 feet of woven wire, no climb. And to run that around an acre, you're budgeting $1,500 to $3,500, so understand what you're signing up for. 2 does might cost you a few $100s. The fence is thousands. That is the single biggest upfront number on this entire list, and it's the reason more goat projects fail than any other animal here. The good news is you build it once and it stands for 20 years. Feed runs 150 to 400 a head a year depending on browse. And 3 mistakes. Never keep a single goat. They're herd animals and a lone goat screams. Don't overfeed grain, which causes bloat and stones in males. And separate the bucklings by 4 months because they're fertile that young and they don't care who they're related to. That's the milk. Now, hold on a minute because we're past the halfway mark and I want to say something. You notice what's happened as we've come down this list? Every animal so far replaced something you now buy. The geese replaced a mower and a security light. The sheep replaced a mower. The pig replaced a tiller and a butcher. The bees replaced the pollination you didn't know you were missing and the honey on your shelf. The goats replaced the dairy case. Every one of them kills a bill, and every one of those bills is somebody's business. That's not a conspiracy. Nobody sat in a room and voted to take your grandmother's goat. It's just that a company can't make $1 on an animal you already own that feeds itself off your yard. So the catalogs quit carrying them, the extension pamphlets quit mentioning them, and the feed store put a bag on the counter instead. And here's what gets me. The land-grant universities have circled all the way back around. Oregon State, North Carolina State, Oklahoma State, Texas A&M. Go read their extension sheets today, and they'll tell you heritage dual-purpose breeds are the right animal for a small farm. Rabbits are efficient converters for small acreages. Dairy goats suit small holdings. Same conclusion your great-grandfather worked out on his own, 70 years late on university letterhead. They were right the whole time. Somebody just stopped telling you. All right, number 6. Number 6, fish. And this is the one that surprises people most because you do not need a lake. You need something about the size of a parking space. A 10th-acre pond, 20 by 20 by 5 feet, stocked with 1,000 tilapia fingerlings in spring, gives you around 600 pounds of fish by fall. Even a 4 by 8 line trough can carry about 144 pounds to harvest. Tilapia hit 1 pound to 1.5 pounds in 6 to 9 months in low to mid-80s water. But they die below 50 degrees, so up north you harvest before frost or bring them in. Channel catfish are the cold country answer. They survive under ice, hit 1 pound in about 6 months, and you can catch them on a hook and line, which is a fine afternoon with a grandchild. Feed conversion on both is about 2 pounds of feed to 1 pound of fish. Now here's where it gets clever, and this is the part that makes fish belong on a self-feeding acre. Run your ducks on the fish pond, and the research shows integrated duck and fish ponds produce about 58% more fish than fish alone. Duck manure feeds the plankton feeds the fish, and you cut bought fish feed by 30 to 50%. And the water coming out of that pond is loaded with nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Irrigate the garden out of it, and you're fertilizing every time you water. That's free liquid feed you'd otherwise buy in a jug. Now the legal part, and I don't see anybody else saying this out loud. Tilapia are restricted or outright banned in a lot of states. California permits only 3 species and only in 6 southern counties. Georgia prohibits pond stocking entirely. Some states class them as invasive, with fines running into 5 figures. So before you buy one fingerling, check your state. And if tilapia are off the table where you live, channel catfish are native to North America and there are no restrictions anywhere. That's your play. Don't overstock, don't skip aeration. A cheap air pump prevents a mass die-off. And don't dump a load of manure straight in, because the algae bloom will suffocate everything you've got. Feed the water gradually. Once a year, dredge the muck off the bottom. That sludge is the best mulch you'll ever put around a fruit tree. All right, before number 5, let me talk to you for a second about the thing behind all of this. I know exactly what's happening for some of you right now. You've got 2 or 3 of these written down, and behind them is a pile of questions I can't answer in a video. What does my zone actually allow? What does the fence really cost? Which of these makes money and which one only breaks even? What order do I build it in so I'm not standing in a half-finished mess next spring? That's why I wrote the Profit Per Acre Playbook. It's the whole operating manual. Honest income ranges instead of fantasy numbers. The zone and timing truth. The legal lines on what you can and can't sell off your own land. And the exact order to build a place so it pays for the next piece instead of draining you. No miracle claims, just what works on real ground with the limits attached. It's the first link in the description. Now, number 5, and this is the animal that guards your garden better than you do. Number 5, Indian runner ducks. They look like bowling pins with legs. They stand almost straight up and they move like they're late for something. And they are the best slug hunters God ever built. One runner duck will eat up to 200 slugs in a day. A pair keeps about 1/5 of an acre clean. For a full acre, 6 to 8 of them handle it. Here's what separates them from a chicken in the garden. A chicken scratches. She'll dig up roots, flip your seedlings, and leave a bed looking shelled. A duck doesn't scratch. Those flat feet just pad down the row. And ducks work hardest in the rain, which is exactly when the slugs are out. Chickens hide when it rains. Ducks turn into hunters. And this isn't some new idea somebody thought up for the internet. There's a wine estate in South Africa that turns out hundreds of runner ducks into the vineyards every morning and uses no chemical pesticide at all. Rice farmers in Indonesia have been running ducks through paddies for over 2,000 years. It's carved into temple stone in Java. 2,000 years of pest control that eats slugs and lays you breakfast. Good strains lay 200 to 300 eggs a year, and duck eggs sell for $1 to $2.50 apiece. 3 to 5 times a chicken egg, because bakers want the extra fat. You don't need a pond. A kiddie pool or rubber tub is plenty. They just need water deep enough to dunk their whole bill and clear their nostrils. 4 to 6 square feet each inside, no roosts, and a 3-foot fence holds them because runners can't fly. 4 mistakes, and the first one kills ducks. Never feed them medicated chicken feed. It's toxic to ducks. Unmedicated only. Ducklings need extra niacin or they develop leg problems that can cripple them permanently. A little brewer's yeast in the water fixes it. Don't get 1 duck. They get genuinely depressed alone. 3 minimum. and keep them out of the garden while the seedlings are small. They won't scratch, but they'll flatten a young plant just walking over it. Wait until the crops are up and established, then turn them loose. That's your pest control. Number 4 is the one I teased. Half a steer out of a space you could park a car in. Number 4, meat rabbits. And I think this is the single most overlooked animal in American backyards. The government told people to raise these. The War Food Administration put out the word in 1943 and called it victory meat. Whole neighborhoods had a hutch by the shed. Then industrial chicken got cheap in the 60s. A whole bird landed on every sale flyer, and the hutches quietly came down. No ban, just cheaper birds in shrink wrap. Let me give you the numbers because they're hard to believe the first time. One breeding doe gives you about 6 litters a year, 7 or 8 kits a litter. That's 75 to 105 pounds of dressed meat off one animal in 12 months. Run 2 does and a buck, that's your whole starter kit, housed in under 50 square feet of cage, and you're looking at 150 to 210 pounds of meat a year. That's roughly half a beef steer, out of 3 rabbits in a footprint smaller than a parking spot. The meat's about 22% protein at 6% fat, less cholesterol than chicken. Feed conversion runs 3 to 4 pounds of feed per pound of gain, and a fryer costs $4.50 to $6 in feed to raise. But here's the part that might matter more than the meat, especially if you garden. Rabbit manure is the only common livestock manure you can take straight from under the hutch and put directly on your beds. No composting, no waiting, no burning your plants. It's what's called a cold manure, roughly twice the nutrient density of chicken manure, around 2.5 to nearly 4% nitrogen with solid phosphorus and potash. Each rabbit drops 200 to 300 odorless pellets a day. Little slow-release fertilizer capsules landing on your soil while you sleep. New Zealand whites are the standard. Calm, 9 to 12 pounds, excellent mothers. And here's how they connect to the rest of the acre, which is where this gets good. Put your hutches directly over your fly bins, and I'll explain those at number 2. The droppings fall through the wire, the larvae process them immediately, the larvae feed your chickens, and what's left over goes on the garden. Nothing is wasted. Nothing leaves the property. 3 mistakes. Don't start with Flemish giants thinking bigger is more meat. Big bones, poor conversion. Stick to New Zealand's or Californians. Don't breed in summer without shade. Buck fertility falls off hard above 85 degrees, and one hot day can kill your whole colony. Rabbits take cold far better than heat, and separate the males by 4 months or they'll breed their own sisters. And have a plan for the population before you start. Rabbits do what rabbits do. If you're not eating them, selling them, or separating them, you'll be underwater in 2 litters. On the killing, I use the method the Veterinary Association lays out, and I don't do it in front of the children. That's a personal rule. But if you're going to eat meat, somebody has to do that job, and doing it yourself with your own hands is the most honest version of it there is. That's the meat. Number 3 is the bird everybody starts with, and the one most people get wrong. Number 3, chickens. But I want to be very specific about which chickens, because this is where most people lose money without ever realizing it. Not the commercial hybrids. Heritage, dual-purpose breeds. Here's the difference, and it's the whole ball game. A commercial hybrid lays like a machine for about 18 months and then falls apart. She burns out around 500 or 600 lifetime eggs, and you replace her. A heritage hen, a Rhode Island Red, an Australorp, lays 200 to 300 a year and keeps laying for 3 to 5 years. That's 800 lifetime eggs and no replacement bill. And the hybrid can't forage worth anything. She was bred to eat out of a bag. A Rhode Island Red on decent pasture will cut your feed bill by something like 40% because she's out there working for her own supper. That's not an accident. Somewhere in the late 40s, the advice went out to quit hatching your own and buy chicks from the hatchery every spring. And the feed company was standing right there with the bag. A hen that feeds herself off your yard is a hen nobody can sell to. On a mixed acre, you don't need 50 hens. 12 to 25 is the sweet spot. 25 hens at 200 eggs is 5,000 eggs a year, eating, sharing, and selling. Rhode Island Reds are the hardiest foragers. Plymouth Rocks take cold beautifully. Buff Orpingtons go broody on their own, so they hatch your replacements and the flock renews itself with no incubator. Delawares were this country's meat bird before the Cornish cross took over. Use a chicken tractor, a bottomless mobile coop, and move it daily. Each hen drops 100 to 130 pounds of manure a year, so 25 hens spread 30 to 50 pounds of nitrogen across your acre. Real fertilizer, not something you hauled home in a bag. And pastured eggs carry about twice the omega-3s, 3 times the vitamin E, and 7 times the beta-carotene of a conventional egg. That's measured, not marketing. 3 mistakes, and I've made the second one myself. Don't overstock. More than 100 birds an acre, and your soil starts degrading inside 3 years. The manure stops being fertilizer and starts being pollution. Don't use chicken wire for predator protection. Chicken wire keeps chickens in. It does not keep anything out. A raccoon goes through it like paper. You need half-inch hardware cloth. I lost most of a flock young to a gap I should have seen. Nobody had to tell me twice. And third, give them overhead cover on the range. Brush, a shade structure, anything. Chickens are terrified of hawks, and if there's nothing to duck under, they'll huddle by the coop and refuse to forage. You lose the entire benefit of free ranging, and you never know why. All right, before number 2, stop with me one more time. Everything above this line is an animal you've heard of. Everything I've got left is the part that actually makes the system work, and it's the part nobody starts with. Because here's what I've watched happen over and over. Somebody gets excited, buys the goats first, spends $3,000 on fence, buys hay all winter, and by March they're worn out and the whole thing feels like a second job that costs money. They started at the expensive end. The right order is backwards from what everybody does. You start with the thing that makes feed free. Then everything you add afterward is cheaper than it would have been. That's number 2, and it cost about $30. Number 2, and it isn't an animal, not the way you mean it. It's a fly, the black soldier fly. Now don't click away on me because these are not house flies. The adult black soldier fly doesn't even have working mouth parts. It cannot bite you. It cannot carry disease to you. And it actually drives house flies off your property because it occupies the ground they want. What it does is lay eggs in organic waste, kitchen scraps, garden trimmings, livestock manure. And those eggs hatch into larvae that are, plainly, little protein factories. 40 to 50% crude protein. That's soybean meal territory, and not far off fish meal. And they carry something like 50 times the calcium per gram of a mealworm. So when you feed those larvae to your chickens, your ducks, your quail, your fish, you are feeding them premium feed that you grew out of garbage. Think about what that means for a second. The single biggest running cost on a homestead is feed. It's the bill that never stops. And this thing turns the waste you're already throwing away into the feed you're already buying. Here's the setup. A bin taking up 2 to 4 square feet. A modest one handles 8 to 12 pounds of waste a day. Build it yourself for $30 to $75 or buy a unit for under $200. Start with a few hundred purchased larvae, $6 to about $28. And if you're in zone 7 or warmer, wild black soldier flies will find your bin and colonize it on their own for free. Larvae hit harvest size in 10 to 14 days. And here's the clever bit. When they're ready to pupate, they instinctively crawl up a ramp and drop themselves into a collection bucket. The system harvests itself. You walk out and pick up a bucket of feed. What's it actually worth? An Australian broiler study found that replacing just 15% of chicken feed with these larvae cut feed costs 19%. Homesteaders running them report offsetting a third or more of the whole feed bill. For fish, larvae can replace 25 to 50% of commercial feed. On an acre with chickens, ducks, and a pond, that compounds fast. Keep the bin between 70 and 90 degrees, humidity around 60 to 70%. Too wet and it goes anaerobic. You'll know because it'll stink. Too dry and the larvae slow down and can't keep up with the waste. 3 mistakes. Don't put the bin in direct sun because anything over about 113 degrees kills the colony. Don't overfeed it faster than the larvae can process. And don't try to breed the adults indoors without enough light and flight space. I put this at number 2 on purpose, not because it's the most impressive animal, it's a bin of grubs in the corner of your yard, but because it's the one that changes the math on all 10 of the others. Get this running first before a single bird or rabbit shows up. Then every animal you add afterward costs you less to keep than it would have. That's the piece almost nobody starts with, and it's the one I'd start with. Now, number 1. Number 1 isn't an animal. Number 1 is what happens when the 10 above it stand on the same acre at the same time and do their jobs together. Watch how it closes. Your kitchen scraps go to the fly bin. The larvae feed the chickens and the fish. The chickens scratch pests out of the ground and lay nitrogen down as they go, and the garden grows out of it. The ducks eat the slugs off that same garden and lay eggs worth 3 times a chicken's. The rabbits sit above the fly bin and drop fertilizer straight through the wire. The goats and the sheep eat the brush and the grass the mower can't touch and hand you milk and meat. The bees multiply every fruit and vegetable on the place by 1/3 or better. The duck waste feeds the pond feeds the fish, and the pond water goes out on the garden as liquid fertilizer. And the heritage breeds, the Orpington that goes broody, the pigs that breed true, make the next generation of themselves. You don't buy chicks. You don't buy feeder pigs. You don't buy the fertilizer. You don't buy most of the feed. You don't buy the eggs, the milk, the meat, or the honey. That's what self-sufficient actually means. It isn't a slogan and it isn't a bunker. It's a loop where almost nothing leaves and almost nothing has to come in. And here's the thing I keep coming back to. In 1943, this country ran that loop in 20 million backyards in the middle of a world war, mostly by women and children and old men who had no equipment and no internet and no money. They just knew how. We didn't lose the knowledge because it stopped working. We lost it because for about 60 years, somebody found it more profitable for us to forget. Now you know it again. Now hear me, because this is the most important thing I'll say today. Do not start all 11. That's the fastest way to quit. I've watched it happen more than once. Year 1, get a fly bin going. Put in a small flock of heritage hens, add a rabbit trio, and set 2 beehives. Learn the daily rhythm of it. Learn what it feels like on a January morning when it's sleeting and something still has to be fed. Year 2, ducks and quail. Maybe your first goats, if and only if the fence is already up. Year 3, sheep, geese, a pig, the fish. By then you'll understand how the waste loops connect and you'll build it right the first time. And the strangest sounding animals on this list, the fly bin and the quail, are the easiest and cheapest to start. The ones that look simplest, the chickens and the goats, need the most infrastructure and the most money up front. So start small. Start at the cheap end. Let the system pay for the next piece. Pick one. Just one. Not 11, not tomorrow. One. A fly bin this weekend for $30 in a bucket. Or 6 heritage hens and a coop you can build out of pallets. Or a pair of does and a hutch by the shed. Start wherever your yard and your zoning already say yes, and the rest follows the first one. It always does.